Hey everyone, on this episode of EdTech, we're going to be talking with Scott Tyner and discussing all the good things that came out of the HETMA conference this past year. All this and more on EdTech.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is EdTech, episode 82, HETMA Conference Notes.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by Extron, industry-leading technology backed by world-class support.
This is EdTech, the monthly higher ed tech podcast. I'm Bill O'Donnell. I'm joined today by Ernie Bailey. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine.
Good to see you, sir. And of course, Mr. Scott Tyner. How are you?
I'm doing well, Bill, on a snowy Thursday up here in Maine.
Yeah, we have rain.
It's pretty. I can't deny it.
We actually have shadows today, so that's exciting.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, we are heading into February, which for me is just I'm looking going, come on, no polar vortex bombs. For Scott, that might be Tuesday. I don't know. Anyways. So first thing first, once again, folks, welcome to the new year. We're now in 2020, which, you know, if you've watched any science fiction movies, usually there's supposed to be some amazing things, and I'm still waiting for my jetpack. But we're going to actually look at our first article, which is from edsurge.com, and it covers higher education and what college esports arenas mean for community in the digital age. Now, if you're unfamiliar with esports and everything, simply put, it's things like StarCraft. Well, that's kind of dating me. You have things like Fortnite or PUBG and things like that. Call of Duty, things of that nature and everything. They're competitive online team sports and everything. And the article itself goes into a certain number of colleges and schools and everything have actually gone and started making actual, arena spaces and everything for them. One of your better known ones is probably the folks over at Full Sail. But once again, that college and that school and everything is very much geared towards everything digital anyway. So of course it would make sense for them to go and say, yeah, we're going to have an esports arena. They also have a wrestling arena because, if you happen to watch wrestling or anything like that, they produce the show NXT down that way. But anyway, it's an interesting concept. It's one of those things that if you're, I think it's a good way, and the way the article describes it is that a number of schools are starting to either put things in, say, their student union, or they're actually making it like an addition to the the rec center kind of thing. I think it's a good idea. It kind of just needs buy-in a lot of times, I think, from like the folks who do the construction or capital plans and everything. Because from you have a couple of big considerations. You have your networking folks who have to have the highest top speed and everything. You have the actual hardware folks who are going to want the nice high-end graphics cards or anything. Or if they're doing consoles, they just need to have the fastest upload and download speeds and everything. And then there's the whole, how do we push this content out? So I can see Scott's like kind of nodding and looking at this and everything. Now, my pitch to you guys is this. This is one of those things where I look at it and go, okay, really you could have the PCs kind of just about anywhere. It's sending the content out to showing folks is where I think it's not the bottleneck, but it's one of those ones where I would say this is where your AV over IP stuff is definitely going to get put to the test, only because, obviously the folks will be able to view their stuff locally, but to be able to actually get everything out and get everything to where folks can see this in real time, that's when, you're going to be pushing the limits of, do we need 1G? Do we need 10G? 1 gig or 10 gig? So things of that nature. Scott, you're just like looking at me, just going like, "What, Bill? What have you dragged me into?"
No, I actually love the discussion of esports. We have a local community college I visited in the spring who had set up an esports. It's not quite an arena; it's more of a practice area, and spent a lot of time reading about it. one thing I'll just say right off the bat is I think we're going to be talking about HETMA and HETMA conference. There was an amazing session on esports at the HETMA conference.
Ooh.
Some people who one was a current coach of an esports team. One was I can't remember the exact school he's at, but he essentially studies esports. And how this is growing and the capabilities it gives is mind-blowing and amazing. What was interesting about this article is a lot about community. And I think this type of article is important to get out there because so many people, especially some people who grew up playing video games for fun, think that they're a waste of time, think that people are doing nothing. But there's amazing studies out there about the number of processes that you're doing in your mind per second while you're playing a video game, the heart rate that gets up and how you're actually burning calories by the heart rate that gets up. And these coaches are out there saying, we do physical workouts. We do ergonomic workouts so that we don't hurt ourselves just like any other athlete. It's also an extremely accessible sport. You don't need expensive equipment, clothing and sports equipment to play it. It doesn't matter what disabilities you may have, you can play it. So it really helps build a great community. And I think it's just overall a really exciting thing that's going to just continue to grow and explode.
The thing that I find interesting about this stuff, it's two ends. One is the fact that there are actually esport teams that get actual sponsorship and everything, and it's they get a considerable sum of money. The other end of it is the other end of it is that you can kind of monetize this stuff. If folks are familiar with certain ones like Twitch, like there are folks who just make a ridiculous amount of money just doing streaming like their gameplay on Twitch and everything. And the one that I always laugh about, because this guy made an obscene amount of money, and he's actually in terms of social media awareness and everything else, he actually does a pretty good job. Funny enough, the guy's name is Dr. Disrespect. And it's just fun to watch him like actually play this stuff, because he will have a meltdown on screen or so about things, and he'll kind of go off about the mechanics of gameplay, but that's going far off the grid here. I do think it is one of those things that it's a good way to bring in different students. Being that, Scott, both you and I are at a D3 school. So, the folks who are like, the more traditional athletes, they're not really going to be at our school. They're going to be at like your Rutgers or Purdue or NYU or something like that. But esports, it's one of those things. Really, I think the biggest problem ever on a campus, and guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, is it's just carving out a space. Really, that's it. It just turns into, let's find an actual decent sized space, this decent sized room or so. Make sure there's enough power. Make sure there's enough network connection. And I think that's sorry, getting notes from the peanut gallery. Anyway. It's one of those things that I personally believe it's just kind of finding the space. That's really what it is. Once again, you're talking to a guy who, just recently was told, oh yeah, we have to carve out space for a cannabis institute. And, we all perked up one, really? They're like, oh, it's policy based. They're like, oh.
And say, isn't that the parking lot behind the dorm?
Are you kidding me? I just live, well, never mind. I'm just saying, I'm not narking anyone out. Anyway, Ernie, I think in your case, it is one of those things. I think it would apply more for like the dexterity of like, surgical students or things of that nature. Although for you guys, I'd say they'd also have to, they'd end up writing up their own scripts for Adderall. But
exactly, I think it would be something fun to do, but it's not a priority for us right now. And if I'm looking for space, I'm looking for space for more active learning classrooms, or patient care areas that make money.
So one thing I'm going to pop in and say is I actually think bigger schools, and this is something we learned at the conference, bigger schools aren't going to be as interested in this because they've already got these huge NCAA programs going on that they're making all kinds of money on. And one of the problems with esports is that pros can play it in college. They haven't formed rules like NCAA has. So you can be in college, getting a scholarship, making $100,000 a year playing video games, and you can still do that right now. And if you're Duke,
So you're saying we can buy ringers?
yes, you absolutely can buy ringers. And if you're Duke, you don't want to go anywhere near that, right? Because it's completely against what you do with your sports teams. But this is a sport team. One of the problems with the community is that these are elite people. These are actually the best of the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
So it just continues to really, the more you learn about it, it's like, holy cow, it's not just a few people in a room playing games. These are experts and professionals.
Oh no, they're competitive folks that we've started a club here on campus, and we're, once again, it's carving out the space and getting that and everything. And there are guys who are like, oh yeah, no, I they'll tell me like, oh yeah, we were grinding on this and playing this and everything. And I'm like, oh, like what, like a couple hours? And they just look at me and go, yeah, a couple hours. And I'm back of my brain's going, I would tap out after a couple hours, once again, playing, Xbox or whatever. There's only so many times where you can take it and be like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. All right. You know what? I'm actually going to go do something in real life here. Thank you. But once again, for those guys, you're right. It's their livelihood. It's for them. It's a as I say, it's up there with like actual, strategy and timing and everything else. Like, so for them, yeah, there is a considerable sum of money. And I think it's actually something that a lot of the smaller schools should actually look into, because it's going to bring in different students. And, once again, I'm looking at, I just say for us, we're looking at, bringing in, adult education and a couple other things. So I'm looking at going, why not? Anyways. So that being said, our next article actually comes to us. In fact, Scott just mentioned it a little while ago, and that was the virtual conference hosted by HETMA, which is shorthand for Higher Education Technology Managers Alliance. Which, that's not a mouthful. But then again, we also deal with AVIXA, so go with that.
AVIXA would get you lots of points in Words with Friends if you played it right. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Which version of Scrabble do you play? I can't do acronyms.
No, you can't do acronyms, but let's just get it in the dictionary and then we'll all win.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, there we go. It ranks up there with one time someone tried to correct Conan O'Brien on a dictionary term, and he literally brought out the Webster's dictionary and was like, ah, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Which I believe it was sneak versus snuck, and someone said snuck is not a word, and he's like, oh, really? Anyways, so Scott, you actually attended the conference. What was, who actually did the hosting, and who were all the participants? Well, at least what were the big concepts of it?
Yeah, so tell you first of all, HETMA is a organization started about a year ago by Joe Way and BC Hatchett. The concept being that higher ed technology managers, which in case you don't know, we all actually really believe we should be called in-house integrators. So I joke with Joe that he really needs to change the name of his organization already. But anyway, we all know what technology managers are. It's about giving them a voice in the industry and a voice specifically to manufacturers and integrators about what we need, what products work for us. And they got this idea when they traveled to a vendor who really wanted to know that and really sat them down for 10 days as a group and showed them products and give us your feedback and be rough on us. And they thought, well, we should get everybody in higher ed involved in that. So they held a virtual conference in early December that had a number of sessions. I think there might have been 6 or 7 sessions that covered a bunch of things. And so when we were done, I was involved. I did a couple of the sessions. When we were done, there were a few things that kind of really stuck out to me about the conference. The first one is this whole piece about in-house integrators and how those of us in higher ed who do what the three of us do, and what Rob Raspberry does, have a very, very special skill set, very special knowledge and experience that should be valuable to manufacturers so that they can build the products that fill our needs. let's help them. Let's not have them guess and then us complain about it. Let's help them build those products. As I was sitting in the conference, the other thing I thought is, boy, if you're an integrator, you should be listening to this, because there are people here telling you exactly what you can do to get our business and to make more money. And so what's better than that? And there were some integrators on there who did that, who didn't try to, that were in the audience, who didn't try to stand up and tell us where they were right. They were just like, hey, let me learn from you. Mm-hmm. Another big one was about some of the big issues that are coming along in higher ed. In my opinion, we know that AV as a service is one. We've talked about that a million times.
Oh, I'm sure Joe was very quiet on his stance on that.
There's another session coming up at Infocom about it. The other one that amazed me was accessibility. And so all of these videos, by the way, are on YouTube, and anybody should go watch all of them. But accessibility right now is a growing issue in education, and it's not simply about putting hearing or listening assistance devices in rooms. It's about accessibility across the broad spectrum of what we might see from a student or a faculty member, from mental disease to physical ailments to anything. And how do we make sure that they're all have the same access in a classroom? And then again, the fourth one, Gary Kay closed out the session with everybody who had been on a panel and kind of did a question and answer. Mm-hmm. And he was really pointing out again that difference that we have, that knowledge that technology managers have, and really started to push us about, you might even have more power than you think. You might even have more power than just, hey, here, let us help you make a product. You as an organization might be able to say, no, I'm going to do that. For example, maybe we say, here is a HETMA certified product. Ooh. Boy, wouldn't a manufacturer want that to be able to sell such a thing? So I think there's a great future for HETMA. We're going to do another virtual conference. There's some announcements coming up about things that are going to happen at Infocom. So very exciting.
So just backing up for a second and everything, I know, you were talking about accessibility. Now, are you talking about, and once again, you're right, it's not just the, here's the, assisted listening device, or here's the ADA, adjustable desk, podium, lectern, what have you. In terms of accessibility, are you talking about, like, did it go back to say how, like, students are able to get the content, or how they're able to actually save the stuff, or was it just how, like, was it more of an ease of use thing, or was sorry, it's a vague term on that one. I was just kind of curious as to what it was beyond, ADA stuff.
Well, I think that there's a part of the conference was about ADA is a legal compliance we have to make, that might miss out on some things that are actually just the right thing to do. And one of the things they talked about, for example, is a student with autism, or who's on the autism spectrum, and how do we make an environment that they can take part in, using technology or using space design even.
Okay. That's fair enough. As far as the HETMA conference and everything, is there a set date for when the next conference is coming around, or is that still in the still in the planning stages?
It's still in the planning stages, but I believe that we're soon going to be announcing some things that are going on at Infocom.
Okay. And are there plans to bring are there plans to bring other manufacturers into this, or is it just an open call for both higher ed tech managers and like integrators and manufacturers? Is it?
It is an organization for higher ed technology managers, and so we don't want salespeople. We don't want sales pitches. So it's kind of a cool experience as well, where we can kind of, hold people back, put our arm on, be like, we'll let you listen to what we need, and we'll give you some information about what we need. But we don't want, the point is not that you come in and tell us what we need.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to talk to the engineering side of manufacturers, and this is what we need to make your device successful in our integrations in our classrooms. We need this connector. We need to be able to mount it this way. We need to be able to do this with it.
If anything, the biggest thing that I would have, at least one of the biggest gripes I've come with, at least furniture and AV, is that the architects will always spec out something that looks wonderful, but from their perspective of trying to, either A, hide cabling, or B, put it in a way where, students can't destroy it. And I know some folks are going to be like, oh, they don't do that. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
But that's just my own personal gripe with that. But like you said, it's in the realm of, we are a very specialized group. And so there are certain things where it's like, oh, this is a great idea. Okay, we've tried to do something like this, and reasons X, Y, and Z have popped up with this. For example, with our school, we ended up putting in 2 classrooms that had built-in outlets built into the tables and everything, which initially sounded great. The downside was that they were these kind of open frame tables, which just literally had 2 legs on the sides and just essentially a straight sheer piece of wood on the top for the tabletop. And a lot of times folks would end up getting the umbilicals tangled into it, and we kind of went back to the architect and everything and said, it would have been better if you guys had actually encased this. They're like, they said, oh, well, we wanted everything to be mobile. I'm like, you have, BX cabling coming up, poking through the floor. What part of mobile is that? There's not that's, you might as well have just set it in stone. But anyways, So that being said, the this year, if you guys aren't aware, once again, InfoComm will be in, I believe it's Vegas this year.
Vegas this year.
Yep. It always usually alternates back and forth and everything. And oh my gosh, there's Rob Raspberry. He'll, as I say, he'll join us in for the last couple of minutes possibly. But in the meantime, the big thing that I was at least looking forward to, hopefully next time I'll be able to join in the HETMA conference and everything. Or is it? Yeah. Sorry. In any event, like I said, we're looking at, as I say, we're at least trying to look at things once or twice. For us, Middle Atlantic is right down the way. I'm no stranger to signing NDA contracts, but we've given our feedback to them, at least for some of their collaborative tables, which, side note, my personal favorite article of this past month or so has been one by, he's one of the rave guys, and I'm blanking out seriously here. He's Mark Coxon. There we go. Mark actually put out a really good article that simply said, you're a collaboration device. It's great. Too bad no one uses it. And it does kind of go back to the whole point of, we can make the best technology that you can imagine, but if you don't make a space that's conductive to it, nobody's going to go for it. It's the $1 million Lamborghini, but if folks don't know how to drive stick, it's a giant paperweight. But if you folks get a chance to read that and everything, please by all means take a look at Mark's article. Scott, or as I say, you anyway. Scott, if anything, have you had a chance to read that article?
I did not read that one. No.
Oh, that's fine.
It's funny though, because from the headline, I thought exactly what you said, which is everybody has sold us these collaboration things, and maybe kind of brought us into it when really it was something nobody ever asked for. I've never seen an environment where everybody wants to kind of quad up computers on a screen. Like who does that? Yeah. Nobody.
Yeah, it's one of those things where at its most, and we're kind of looking at this, and for us, we've had like the Solstice pods, and of course everyone's going, oh, but I said, yeah, we got the 4-user model, and folks went, oh, but what if we want to have more people going in and this and that? And I kind of looked at them and I said, even if I have a 4K display and you have 4 people logged in, that's 4 1080p pieces of info. I said, how often are you actually going to reference all 4 pieces, all 4 pieces of user content at the same time? Not saying that there has to be like the sage on the stage, one dominates everything, but for us, unless you're in a command and control setup and everything, seeing that many windows up at the same time is actually more distracting than, than having just like a set of info. Anyways, like I said, that's my soapbox. I'm going to jump off of that for now. In any event, that's about the time we have for today. Scott, where can the fine folks find you at?
I'm occasionally on Twitter at @steiner, and of course you can find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, of course, Mr. Ernie.
Find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, there we go. And once again, folks, you can find me on LinkedIn. This has been EdTech, a monthly higher ed tech podcast, who apparently the host has forgotten Mark Coxon. How dare I? That being said, this is EdTech, which is part of the AVNation